3, 2, 1. So sorry, hold on 1 second. That was amazing, by the way. Denver, Colorado. That was amazing. The Rock has got goosebumps right there. But you know what? This is the Rock show. It's a people's show. This is the people. Now we're going to give this side a chance to say, you are, and this, and that. 3, 2, 1.
Shut your damn mouth! Be quiet! Shut up! Stop! I am not! No!
It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
Pretty unbelievable that the last time we did a show on Saturday was 3 weeks ago. Damn, I went on vacation. I actually did not realize I was going to be gone 2 Saturdays, not 1. But we are back. It is Saturday, 12 noon Eastern here in New York. Got my coffee, got a little uncensored rock for you, and I want to welcome you to this edition of the Don Tony Show. I am Don Tony. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. It's funny. I had so many DMs and emails yesterday saying, DT, we should have did a watch party. We should have did a watch party. I actually had everything set up and ready to go. The thing is, just preparing for the shows and trying to put everything together. And plus, there was so much unknown as far as SmackDown goes. You know what's interesting? People loved the interaction with The Rock, Pat McAfee, and Austin Theory yesterday. And yeah, look, Fox censoring the asshole, you gotta understand this is not cable television. Yeah, USA Network does it as well. This is what you saw last night, or heard, might be a better way to put it. What you heard last night with the censor button is a perfect example as to why WWE was not going TV 14 last year. I mean, does anybody remember? I mean, how many times did they get these blockbuster headlines wrong? It has to be cleared by advertisers. It has to be cleared by networks. It has to be cleared by investors. It has to go through so much clearance, and that's something that would not be hidden. That would be a news story, for advertisers that don't want to advertise on a TV 14 show. They would want to know about it, and this would be public information since it's a publicly traded company. But the fact that Fox is network television and not even technically cable, even more of a reason. Look, I hated the censor yesterday. Luckily, in some states, it's a little bit more relaxed. So if you happen to pass over to the Watch Party channel yesterday, it was streaming. And luckily, thank God, because I have access to the rewind button, I rewound it, and 95% of it was uncensored. So fun segment yesterday. And listen, anybody take notice of something that's not being said since last night? Anybody notice? And no, I'm not trying to be a jerk. But for all of the people out there that keep insisting that Vince McMahon is head of creative and Triple H is just a figurehead and he's just first of all, tell that to the majority owners of TKO, the board of directors that hold the majority, number one. Number two, nobody yesterday said, oh, Vince McMahon's back in charge. Austin Theory suddenly getting a major rub. You know, for people that haven't paid attention, Austin Theory's been getting rubs for quite some time now. I cannot take credit for that screenshot, but you look at Austin Theory with The Undertaker. Not match, but segment. Austin Theory with Edge. Austin Theory with Brock Lesnar. Austin Theory. Those are kind of, I don't want to say iconic moments, but those are pretty huge moments. You know, so I was very happy yesterday to not see the usual crybaby saying, oh, they're doing this with Austin Theory and The Rock because Vince is back in charge. No, just enjoyed it. It was a good segment. The censor buttons butchered it, but it was a good segment. I enjoyed it very much. A lot of surprises. It's going to be very interesting how the ratings reacted to it. Because, you know, something that we've always talked about going back to the 90s. Sometimes you will see a really good show on TV, wrestling-wise, and it pop a bad rating. And sometimes you will watch an absolute shit fest, you know, for a wrestling show, and it'll pop a good rating. And you say to yourself, how could that be? The problem is, not everybody is hanging by their computer. Not everybody is hanging by the TV set. If they are doing something else on a Friday night, unless somebody calls them or texts them, you know, not everybody's on social media. It's not as big of a footprint as you think as far as overall viewership. So there's going to be a decent number of people who did not watch SmackDown yesterday that had no clue that The Rock was going to be on. But it was fun. It was fun to see him. Obviously, when The Rock is not around for a while, you could hear promo rust. I mean, how many times did he repeat himself? You know, you 3 seconds away of getting your ass kicked and talking about the crowd, the people show. This is the Rock show. You know, repeated something like 3 times, but who cares? The guy is back for a little bit, not on a weekly basis. You know, I stirred up a couple of feathers yesterday because I posted this. Could we possibly see The Rock versus Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel? You know, I just put that up there as a conversation piece. All right, that more than anything, that's a conversation piece. But this is going to segue into some Rock news. You know, people are reporting right now that Roman Reigns' next title match will not be until Crown Jewel, which is the first week of November. Now, I will tell you firsthand, that is not news. That is guessing. That is speculation, simply because you look at the upcoming pay-per-view premium live event schedule. WWE fans, a lot of them think that it's too soon to incorporate Roman Reigns once again. Could Roman Reigns defend the championship against LA Knight at the next premium live event? Sure. Why not? Especially after LA Knight throwing in Roman Reigns' name yesterday, name dropping it. We know what the outcome will be, but maybe some people will want it anyway. You know, so I put that out there because, you know, understand, Crown Jewel, if they want something, They will pay for it. I don't know how The Rock feels about Saudi Arabia. Would The Rock go to Saudi Arabia? That's a question you have to ask yourself as well. I kind of think if John Cena is going to be around until October, it seems like they're leading to a match, one of two, either AJ Styles and John Cena versus Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. And I kind of feel that may actually end up happening because John Cena wrestling one-on-one, I know everybody and their mother yesterday was glued by this screenshot, this one right here. I did my best getting some good quality screenshots for y'all. Look at Grayson Waller's reaction. A lot of people think, could we see Solo Sikoa and John Cena? They're obviously going to be doing something. Solo Sikoa hit him with the Samoan spike. Unfortunately, actually, did he really hit him with the spike? No, he hit him with the super kick. He teased the spike to Jimmy Uso. And, we thought that Solo Sikoa was going to attack Jimmy Uso, but he didn't. He ended up super kicking John Cena. But in the end, when Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa were kind of throwing the beat down to John Cena, Jimmy Uso thinking that he's going to get, hey, we're back together. Everything is good. And Solo Sikoa is looking at him like, I don't fucking think so. But before Solo Sikoa could reveal his hand, before he would show us if he is still against Jimmy Uso for all of the stuff that he did towards Roman Reigns. And Jimmy Uso also assaulted Jey Uso a few times. Solo Sikoa a few times over the last couple of months. Before Solo Sikoa could reveal his hand, here comes John Cena. John Cena throws Solo Sikoa out of the ring, does "You Can't See Me" to Jimmy Uso, and they race out of the ring. And then we are left with this visual. We are left with John Cena and AJ Styles with a couple of fist bumps. And common sense would probably dictate that John Cena is more utilized right now, better in a tag team match. We just hope we don't get like the last time he wrestled on SmackDown. I think he had the hot tag and hit the 3 moves, and that was it. I mean, he literally did nothing. Almost nothing in the match. You look at him, he's in phenomenal shape. His hair I'm surprised he hasn't gotten the back of his hair, done. I mean, that would obviously have to keep him off of, television, whether it's wrestling or Hollywood or anything else for a few months. But he could easily fill in, that little bit of a bald spot. But right now, Cena looks phenomenal, pun intended. So I think we're going to get AJ Styles and John Cena versus Solo Sikoa and possibly Jimmy Uso in a tag team match. Now, the only question is, when will that happen? Would they do it on a SmackDown? I'm not so sure. I mean, if it happened on a SmackDown, it probably would be more of a Gaga match than anything else. Could they possibly do it at Crown Jewel? Something to think about as well. Remember, the Usos are now allowed to travel. So doing this at Crown Jewel is a good possibility. But remember, November 7th is only a month and a half away. So, WWE has in the past had a tendency to push Crown Jewel matches like 2 weeks in advance. They usually do it towards crunch time, and they have a premium live event before then. Was it Fastlane? I think they have. So we could end up seeing something at Fastlane. It is very, very possible. But Rizzo, before I get into your super shout out, thank you very much for that, Rizzo. I want to open up just to piss everybody off. Throw everybody a little curveball. Anybody know who that is? Does anybody know who that is? Oh, here's a wrestling news update for those that are curious. And listen, this might be happy news for the biggest haters of Jackson Riker. That is Jackson Riker, real name Chad Lale. He is now a police officer in North Carolina. Iredell County, I believe it's called. So For all of you out there that did not want to see Jackson Riker back in the pro wrestling business, you got your wish. He is a police officer. Now, listen, Jackson Riker dug a lot of his hole in the world of pro wrestling. I am not, going to start praising him. I will thank him for trying to protect North Carolina. Hopefully he's not a little biased towards his WWE haters. Oh, you're that asshole that used to be in WWE. No, but seriously, I just looked at the picture. I said, let me troll everybody and just throw it on the screen. All right, before we get into Rizzo's comments about Cody and Roman Reigns and The Rock, I don't think we have anything to worry about with regards to Cody Rhodes finishing the story. You got to understand something. Cody Rhodes is not only a full-time player with WWE, he is taking the mantle that John Cena and Roman Reigns and the top baby faces. We've been saying this about Bianca Belair and Montez Ford for a long time. People are only starting to figure it out right now. Did you see the TKO merger being completed and them present at the New York Stock Exchange ringing the bell on Tuesday? Who were the two wrestlers that were there with WWE and the board of directors? Bianca Belair and Montez Ford. It's right in front of your face. They are the ambassadors. They are active ambassadors for WWE. But Cody Rhodes, this is a story that's being built almost for 2 years, guys. There is somebody by the name of Dusty Rhodes that has a very big part of this story, even though he is no longer on this earth. You do not delay that, flush it down the toilet, swerve anyone because there's a Writers Guild strike and because The Rock thinks that he can go and he's ready to go. You don't throw it. Remember, long term, not short term. You know what this reminds me of, friends? And I'm not trashing anybody. Please do not take this the wrong way. But do you remember the people out there? Puerto Rico. Oh, Zelina Vega should have beat Rhea Ripley, even if she would have lost the title a couple of days later. Could you imagine how epic that moment would have been? People want the mindgasm. They want the emotional orgasm. That is what happens online with these radical people, whether it's the ones that insisted that Zelina Vega should have beat Rhea Ripley in Puerto Rico, or Mustafa Ali should have beat Gunther in Saudi Arabia, or Sami Zayn should have beat Roman Reigns in Canada. They want the ultimate wrestling mindgasm, that orgasmic emotional feeling like nothing could be better in the world. And then when you realize that that's not an orgasm, that's not a mindgasm, that ends up waking up the next morning and you realize, what the fuck did I do the night before? I got so wasted and I ended up porking some gorilla, some hermaphrodite. What the hell did I do? I totally ruined my life. I DWI'd. I picked up some, ugly beast at the bar, took her home, gave her my phone number, my social security number. My wallet is gone. It's nice for the particular moment. You take the hit, you feel good. And then what happens the next day? The fuck was I thinking? So you're not going to divert the story because The Rock is back for a short period of time. It's not happening. That's why I threw the idea of The Rock and Roman Reigns at Saudi Arabia or Royal Rumble or Survivor Series or whoever. WrestleMania. And I saw some people trying to negotiate an idea. It's not a bad idea, but not a good idea. I'll show it to you like this. This is the preview for AEW Collision tonight. What does this have to do with? I'll show you. If you look at the top right-hand corner, we got Britt Baker, who is getting a TBS championship title shot against, and it shows Kris Statlander or Jade Cargill. And yes, we will definitely talk about Jade Cargill jumping in WWE shortly. But it shows that. And basically what I'm getting at is that poster was online before Rampage aired last night, because last night Jade Cargill got her rematch unsuccessfully against Kris Statlander. So the winner of that match will take on Britt Baker tonight live at Collision. So some people are using that mindset and saying, okay, have Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes night 2. But night 1, have Cody Rhodes fight for the WWE Championship, the undisputed WWE Championship, Universal Championship, on night 2 of WrestleMania. But night 1 is The Rock versus Roman Reigns. And the winner of that match faces Cody on night 2. I don't like that idea. Some people even said Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes night 1. And Roman Reigns still fights The Rock on night 2. There just won't be any title on the line because Cody finished the story night 1. Cody Rhodes and The Rock Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns will close out WrestleMania night 2. That is the ultimate biggest story they could do. They are not going to change that. But the reason why so many people are talking about this in the last 18 hours is because The Rock appeared on Pat McAfee's show yesterday. They happened to be in Colorado. They ended up appearing on SmackDown for a little while. And I can't play you the video, but I can share with you the audio. So The Rock yesterday was on the Pat McAfee show, and he was talking about WWE. He was talking about returning to the ring. He was talking about Roman Reigns. He was talking about WrestleMania. This clip is about 3 minutes long, but this is the clip that has everybody talking as to why would WWE take Cody out of WrestleMania 40 and put The Rock in its place. So somebody did a beautiful Photoshop of putting Cody Rhodes' head on CM Punk with his pipe bomb. And, Cody Rhodes saying, it makes me sick that, The Rock is getting, but this is just emotional, BS. Here's what The Rock said yesterday that stirred everything up.
Going back to WWE and wrestling a match always comes down to the reason why and what can we create that's never been done before for the fans. So that's the idea.
Okay, which is perfect. Let's lead into last year in LA.
Yeah.
SoFi. Roman obviously on an incredible run. Yeah. The bloodline, huh?
Yeah.
They're not talking about my bloodline.
No.
They're not talking about Connor's bloodline.
Definitely not.
Ties, definitely not.
Nope.
Tones, no. AJ Hawk's bloodline runs real deep. They're not talking about it. They were talking about your bloodline. So that story was a big one. The Rock and Roman, SoFi, LA. How close? Did that ever, and was that close?
All right, so the Rock headlining WrestleMania with Roman Reigns, SoFi Stadium, that was locked.
What?
We were
No way.
we were doing it. We were doing it. We were doing it, but let me just tell you. So about in the beginning of 2022, Nick Khan, who we know, shout out to Nick, good friend, long time, for years. He's the man. He was very instrumental in bringing Vince and I together. We all flew to LA. We met. We sat. This is the beginning in 2022, and we broke out the Terramana. We toasted life, toasted the business we love, and about an hour later, we started talking about the potential of what this match could be between myself and Roman Reigns headlining WrestleMania at SoFi. And we shook hands and we hugged right there, all three of us at the table, and said, let's do this. And so the North Star, though, so then we had a year to really think about this. So the North Star thought was, okay, let's not do something good, let's not do something great, let's do something unprecedented. And it was in what can we create for the fans that has never been done before. A match, great. Roman, incredible athlete. He's going to be on Mount Rushmore.
Super handsome.
Right? Super handsome, good dude. My cousin, family, amazing. We can have the match, but the bigger thought was, what can we do for the fans in this business that we love that will where WrestleMania isn't the end of something, it's actually the beginning of something bigger.
Got it.
So
what happened?
So we got really, really close, but we couldn't actually nail what that thing was. So we decided to put our pencils down, and then we agreed, hey, listen, there is a merger coming up. Eventually that will happen. There's WrestleMania in Philadelphia.
Whoa.
Lift the eyebrow.
Whoa.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that's a potential too. So I'm open. But again, let's figure out what that is, because the fans deserve something just incredible and unprecedented. And not only that, but also want to deliver to the locker room and the boys and the girls back there are working their asses off. What can we do to put them in a position where they're part of something that is a new change, an era in this world of pro wrestling? Again, Vince is a big picture thinker, as you know.
Yes, sir.
And this is why we've gotten along for years, just trying to think big picture. So,
how do you feel about his mustache right now?
Strong.
How do you feel about
is that
him?
strong?
Oh, yeah, very strong.
There's a mustache. We'll talk about Vince in a little bit, but so that's what The Rock said that stirred everything up. If you listen closely about WrestleMania 40, it's not necessarily focused on Roman Reigns, but it's him doing something. Could he end up facing Austin Theory? That's very possible. That is very possible. But I truthfully do not believe for 1 second that WWE is going to tell Cody Rhodes, tell the wrestling fans that, indirectly, subconsciously, that, because The Rock became available, we're going to throw out a year and a half of telling a story and not finishing the story when we originally wanted because The Rock became available. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's a conversation piece, obviously, but that is not happening. But what's cool about this is the fact that The Rock is back involved. This isn't just listen, you think about the last bunch of years, how many times WWE had something going on and we were baffled that The Rock couldn't even, in his gym, on film location, in the bathroom, in his hotel room, just grab his iPhone, shoot 2 minutes of video, and they play it on TV, whether it's a tribute or something. And of course, we don't know the whole picture. Maybe WWE didn't want to do that. But once you reintroduce him and you have him saying what he's saying, he knows very well that what he says will be amplified by a billion. So the fact that he is going to get involved in some capacity is a good thing. Whether it's Roman Reigns or Austin Theory or anything else, whether it's WrestleMania or something else, The Rock obviously could still go. Last night, case in point, The Rock got a little physical with Austin Theory. Let me tell you something. Austin Theory yesterday, this is obviously a little bit of a different era compared to the past. It almost, Austin Theory yesterday, all right? When The Rock, by the way, let's backtrack this a little bit, because the Austin Theory yesterday reminded me of a Raw guest host. And I'll tell you why. And then I'll get into some of your comments. Pat McAfee opened the show yesterday, surprisingly. Welcomed everyone to SmackDown, talking about, the show itself. Austin Theory comes out, has a confrontation with Pat McAfee. Austin Theory says this is the Austin Theory show, and Pat McAfee says, no, this is the People's show, which only means that. And then The Rock comes out and everybody's losing their shit. That pop yesterday was not amplified. It was not piped in Dominic Mysterio style. That was authentic, obviously. But if you watched the early interaction with Austin Theory and The Rock, it reminded me of the Raw guest host from back in the day. What was the one thing that we always got upset about the Raw guest hosts? Not the fact that they were the Raw guest hosts. I mean, we didn't want that, period, outside of maybe Bob Barker. Still remember when Al Sharpton was on there. Anybody remember that? I'm not an Al Sharpton fan, but it was just so awkward. It was just a very awkward moment. And I don't even care about politics like I used to, but the Raw guest hosts many times would always open their mouth and try to put down the WWE superstar. We saw it many times where a wrestler would be cutting a promo and he's supposed to do, whether he's a babyface or a heel, and the Raw guest host would always seem to open their mouth, and you could tell it's not scripted. It's almost as if their personal ego would be hit, and they would always try to one-up the WWE superstar. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, before all that shit, there ain't no way that Austin Theory would get in The Rock's face and start trashing him the way he did, or when The Rock was saying, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, I freaking loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it because this is Austin Theory, future megastar, not Raw guest host. But it gave me that same vibe. You tell me back in the day, who would have been able to do that much? Plus, after The Rock gets Colorado to do that asshole chant for 2 minutes, Austin Theory's the one that started beating on The Rock. He's the one that threw the first punch. Back in the day when The Rock says, you got 3 seconds before I kick your ass. 3, 2. A chicken shit heel, more times than not, would have walked out of there. But Austin Theory decides he's going to start wailing on The Rock. But ultimately, as I showed you before, The Rock ended up hitting the people's elbow on Austin Theory. Take note that Austin Theory has 2 shoes on. And then, which was great, was after he sold it, then The Rock allowed Pat McAfee to hit his own version of the people's elbow, and he wailed on Austin Theory, and Austin Theory took it, man. Great segment. You could see very, very, closely that WWE definitely, has a lot of stock in Austin Theory. Granted, since WrestleMania, they really didn't utilize him all that great, but I think that was overshadowed because of the Bloodline storyline, because LA Knight took off. You got to sometimes you're forced to pull back on certain people. Even on the women's side, sometimes you feel like somebody's being pulled back. Why is this person not getting an opportunity? The notorious conversation from years ago was Finn Balor. When people were frustrated, when Finn Balor, first came to the main roster and this and that, and he was on all this momentum, and then it was coming close to WrestleMania, and they clearly pulled back on him big time. And I remember Kevin and I discussing on the show, there's once WrestleMania comes and goes, they'll go balls ahead with Finn Balor, and that's exactly what they did. But just a couple of comments with regards to Austin Theory, The Rock, Cody Rhodes. I want to give a couple of super shout outs out there. Rizzo, thank you for the 20 spot, my friend. A little late. Good afternoon, chat and DT. At first I was like, poor Cody with the Rock tease, but after thinking about it, maybe he still gets his Mania match to finish the story. He has to. Do you all remember the night? There was a picture posted with Nick Khan and The Rock. That was last year. There was the photos posted. That was the meeting about him doing something at Mania. But obviously, Cody Rhodes, you look back at that time, they could not figure out how to incorporate The Rock and Cody Rhodes getting a match against Roman Reigns. A lot of us feel that Cody Rhodes should have beat Roman Reigns last year. We would not have gotten how deep the Bloodline storyline developed after WrestleMania. I mean, because the Bloodline storyline has hit a brick wall right now, we kind of forget 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 5 months ago, how incredible that storyline was coming along. But if you paid attention, I know a lot of you said it. I certainly said it many times. We said it back in May, June, July. Like, they're teasing the Bloodline split, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, even Roman laughing at Solo. And we're like, it's only August. It's only August. Like, this is peaking too early. And now you see what the result is. Roman Reigns will be back on TV, not next week, but probably the week after. He'll be back on TV before you know it, because people are starting to, get a little antsy. They gave him a break, obviously. They gave him a break, but this is getting worse than the Brock Lesnar run from many years ago. Having 2 matches and house show matches, even though they count in the stats category because he defended the title against Rey Mysterio, which a lot of people still don't realize. But, you're going into Fastlane, Survivor Series, Saudi Arabia. I mean, you got to not just have random matches. You got to build storylines. I mean, I'm not crapping on AEW, but AEW, they will put random matches together simply because of the quality of it. And there is an audience for that, but that's not WWE style. WWE is very heavy storyline driven. So I'm glad that you changed your view on that, Rizzo. There ain't no way Cody Rhodes is the #1 ambassador in WWE right now. He is the one that is taking control. You see all the appearances, meeting with the kids, doing all the media. You're not going to put that guy aside just to get that quick hit with The Rock doing something with Roman Reigns. Let me ask you all this, okay, before we go on. Let me ask you all this. You think in a year and a half, well, I'll go one step back. I'll say it's different. You think a year from now, The Rock is going to suddenly look all fat and flimsy and disabled? No. I was looking for screenshots, like good picture for my thumbnail when I put The Rock and Roman in Saudi Arabia. And that picture was 4 years ago. The Rock looks the same. A year from now, The Rock should be healthy. You think Roman Reigns a year from now is suddenly going to be so beat up and burned out? If anything, Roman Reigns might feel better a year from now because he ain't wrestling as much. So WrestleMania 40 is not the place. Why can't it be 41? Why can't it be 41? Are they going to turn into pumpkins at the stroke of midnight after night 2 of WrestleMania 40? No. I know it's a long wait, but there is no reason to screw up Cody Rhodes, the #1 guy in that company, the #1 ambassador, because WWE's going to sell all their tickets. WWE's already sold crazy amounts of tickets. WWE's got their money. WWE's got the audience. The WWE will do perfect without The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. It ain't happening. It's not happening. Rizzo also says, DT, thank you for the 10, my friend. That rhymes. DT, I'm surprised with you being a stickler for detail that you didn't perk up when The Rock talked about the merger in 2022. I saw Austin in the chat, noticed that too. No, the merger doesn't bother me. It didn't affect me at all because, look at this. Here is, I can't play the audio for it, obviously, but let's see. Yeah, we can't play the audio, but here, this is actually, let me do it with a black background. That's a video of this New York Stock Exchange, the merger being finalized, everything on WWE's website now refers to TKO Holdings, the press release for the next Royal Rumble. There's Montez Ford and Bianca Belair. Like I said, they are the power couple. It's not Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, which honestly, I don't think they want to be in that position. The power couple of the WWE is Bianca Belair and Montez Ford. It's not even close. Look at Vince. Vince is always a little bit like a Mexican jumping bean. So, yeah, there you go. Just a little footage from Ringing the Bell. Like I said, I can't play the music from it. I'll get in a little trouble here. But there you go. Yeah, Triple H just a figurehead, everyone. He doesn't have any power. He doesn't have any power. So, there you go. That is just a little quick video clip. Let me just take this down. But listen, mentioning the merger, WWE's not hiding it. What WWE is doing right now, and I know a lot of you have realized this, the most important thing that WWE is afraid of fans of feeling is change. Okay? WWE is no longer owned by the McMahon family. Vince owns 16%. 16% is a lot in the money financial standpoint, but as far as power goes, I would just love somebody in TKO Holdings like Vince. You're not in power anymore, but you only own it 16%. Shut up. I want somebody to do that to Vince. But it's not a McMahon-owned company anymore. So TKO understands that a lot of WWE fans, listen, the whiners and the outspoken on social media are not the majority of the WWE fan base. The WWE fan base does not want change. They want to be assured that everything is business as usual. You think back to when AOL Time Warner merged and they got involved with WCW, and they ended up selling WCW to WWE. You look at corporate conglomerates getting involved in pro wrestling. The fear is that they're just going to look at a wrestling company as just a statistic in their overall bottom line. TKO Holdings, Endeavor, is a lot more than just UFC and the WWE. You got to learn a little bit of history of Endeavor. So they want WWE fans to feel, wow, nothing has changed. It's the same WWE that I watch every week. For some people online, they'll complain about that. But, mentioning the merger, a wrestler will say that. Board of directors will say it, but they're not going to tell it to the everyday fans, because they want them to just feel that, everything is just as it was before. Business as usual. Business as usual. You see even how many times we're going to shake it up. The first time you hear it, you're excited about it. And then when it doesn't feel like it was shaken up, or if it feels even worse after, the next time you say it, fuck you. The next time you say it, yeah, you're going to shake it up, shake this. After a while, you get mad. WWE, TKO, Endeavor, they don't want anybody to feel that there's going to be much change. There'll be some subtle changes here and there, obviously. But overall, a lot of it is, why would you change something that's not really that broken? I mean, would you consider WWE $10 billion company? Would you consider that broken? Some people online get mad when you say, look at the stock and look at their sales and look at their revenue. And how could you say that, this, it's because they're only looking at the creative of what they see on television. Why do you think so many people got it wrong with the Warner Media upfronts in New York City? Everybody was, orgasmic. Oh, 5-year, $1.4 billion AEW Warner Media. But meanwhile, every financial website out there told you every year they don't do TV deals at upfronts like that. But people didn't want to hear it. They just wanted whatever is going to get them the most excited. So The Rock bringing it up, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I mean, if it's part of the conversation needed, yeah. And by the way, I'm going to show you something with regards to TKO. We'll talk about a few things. We'll talk about a couple of releases. And I'm going to give you a link if you want to read the 150-page SEC filing about TKO. All Elite Wrestling is mentioned in it. So I will tell you where to look. And I put a custom link. I'll show it to you in a few moments. But before I do that, one more from Rizzo. Thank you for this 10-spot, Rizzo. He respectfully agrees with me not giving Zelina, well, WWE not giving Zelina the title in Puerto Rico, but he thinks WWE missed the boat in 2022 when they should have given them the belts instead of having the Usos win. If you're talking about the Street Profits, I agree. I agree, man. I mean, the Usos, listen, the Usos had that extended run to become the greatest of all time. I know a lot of people are bitter because the New Day originally was ranked number 1 and we're still praying that Big E could get back in the ring. But, you know, the Usos, for WWE standards for this generation, they are number 1. You know, that's up for debate. You know, some people still feel the Road Warriors are the greatest tag team of all time. Then you show them to casual, younger wrestling fans. They can't work that great. They suck in the ring. You know, I used to do a podcast, The Minority Report, and we had this guy on once. I brought it up before. His name was Dave the Genetic Freak. He lasted on our show for about 6 weeks, and he pretty much got his ass kicked out when he said, did you ever see the work rate of Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3? That's one of the worst matches of all time. Get the fuck out of here. If you're going to look at stuff, and go rate matches on the Observer site. And that's not a shot on the Observer. I'm a subscriber. But, you know, you can't just look at it, you know, with those kind of glasses. But I still believe, though, that the Street Profits had so much momentum. So much momentum in the summer of 2022. When they came out at SummerSlam, is like, this is it. This is the part. And it just made sense. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. I knew you were talking about the Profits, Rizzo, because I'm totally in agreement with you. Yeah, and I will not be driving in North Carolina. So, you know what's funny, though? Any of you that watch On Patrol Live, yeah, I don't have the hat in here, but On Patrol Live, that's on Fridays and Saturday nights on Reels, they do have cameras in cars in North Carolina. I'm not shitting you. There is a very good chance this guy will be on Patrol Live, especially that he was a TV personality, a sports entertainer. If his jurisdiction, his county is part of the cameras for On Patrol Live, that son of a bitch, if he works the night shift, he's going to be on TV. He's going to be on TV, man. All right. Somebody sent something, Mikey, about AEW All In. We'll get to AEW All In. We'll get to our prayers for Will Ospreay. We will give our prayers to Will Ospreay. I'll get into yours in a few moments. All right. For anybody out there that would like to read the entire SEC filing and all the plans for, TKO and how it's going to be handled, the WWE side, the UFC side, I made a custom link online, and the 150-page plus, filing is online. It's in PDF format for anybody that's interested. This is the link. For my friends on audio only, it is www.tinyurl.com/DTTKOSEC. I always got to put my letters in there so you know it's from me. DT TKO, so there's 2 T's there, DT TKO SEC. That is the link. If you click on that link, you can actually download it and read it. So there was some conversation that we had, I think it was on Patreon. And it's very interesting how it ended up leading to here. There was 2 things that caught my eye with the early, news coming out of the filing. One was that certain people that, in pro wrestling, like could not appear here, or, UFC, they would be classified as competition. Some people interpreted it that CM Punk could not return and join TKO, or a wrestler could not. It was just weird the way people were wording it. So I said, you know what? Let's wait for the TKO filing to come out, and then we'll read it straight from them. The second thing was, if anybody tuned in to the Patreon show, and it's available for channel members on YouTube as well, at the very end of the show, the last, I think, 5 minutes of the show, I said Tuesday night, there was one sentence out of all the media, Vince with his pitch black hair, and Nick Khan's comments, which we'll get into. We talked the other day about CM Punk, what he said about Stephanie and others, Triple H and everybody else. Out of all the media on Tuesday, there was one sentence that fascinated me more than anything else. And if people tuned into that show, I said Tuesday night, that one sentence was, I didn't remember the guy's name. I got it here now. The guy's name was Lawrence Epstein, the senior executive vice president. He made a sentence that said that where we want to get TKO is where every UFC fan is a WWE fan, and every WWE fan is a UFC fan. That sentence fascinated the shit out of me Tuesday night. I closed out the show saying, out of everything that Dana White on Wednesday, the following day, called it one of the dumbest statements he has ever heard of all time. One of the dumbest statements of all time. He actually said that. My friends, WWE will lose a boatload of fans. I know that there's a lot of you out there that like MMA, UFC. They will lose a boatload of fans, and MMA will lose a boatload of fans if you try to cross it over where you want. I'm not interested in UFC. I don't watch MMA. All right. And I would pretty much guarantee that some people are huge fans of MMA because it's legit fighting. You start trying to throw storyline, you start trying to, you remember, with all due respect, I'm not criticizing Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz! Tito Ortiz! That's my Don West impersonation. God rest his soul. Rampage Jackson, Frank Trigg, and others. Anybody remember when these UFC people were shown? What about early on in AEW? When they had a couple of UFC guys, didn't they do a match like with the Inner Circle? When you had UFC, I don't want UFC non-wrestlers. You want to go to NXT, a training school, and learn how to wrestle and perform and become a professional wrestler? Fine. But it didn't work in TNA. It didn't work in AEW. It shipped bricks. I don't want some of these guys. I don't, Daniel Cormier as a referee. All right, whatever. You want to throw one move? All right, whatever. I don't want to see UFC people, even if they do a storyline where they show up at ringside. Oh, we don't like that fake stuff. That'll reek WCW 2000. I do not want that, not interested in it. And I was so happy. And I don't care about Dana White. I don't watch his shit. I don't have anything against him. But when I said that Tuesday night and then the next day read him calling it the dumbest, I was so happy. This is what Dana White said about that comment. Then I'll read you the AEW aspect of this. And I'm very happy that Dana White said this, because any of you out there that do not want crossover, this should rest you at ease. Dana White says, and I quote, "Lawrence, I love you." One of the dumbest statements of all time. I don't know why he said that. I don't know what to even say to that. No, there's some crossover. Some people like WWE. Some people like UFC. Some people like both. I don't think there's ever going to be a day where we turn every UFC fan into a WWE fan or every WWE fan into a UFC fan. What's beautiful about the synergy between the two fan bases is that they are completely opposite. There's very little crossover. Maybe he was misquoted. I hope that's the case. No, it wasn't the case, Dana. But I could not disagree with him more. So I don't know who that guy Lawrence is. I never heard of him before. But when I saw it, I was like, no. Oh my God, that stock would tank. Shit. I mean, listen, people bring it up in the chat room. Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock, Brock Lesnar, Matt Riddle, Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, all great examples. But they train to become pro wrestlers. That's the difference. I don't want to see 5, 6, 7 UFC guys sitting front row and then they jump the guardrail and cause a scene. You remember when ECW showed up? What was the pay-per-view in 1997? I think the British Bulldog was in the ring, God rest his soul. John Bradshaw, what was he? Justin Hawk Bradshaw at the time. And I think Taz and Tommy Dreamer and Sandman were all sitting at ringside. And does anybody remember which pay-per-view it was? But it was cool. But it was pro wrestlers sitting ringside trying to focus up. Listen, a lot of people still despise XPW for showing up, I think, at Heatwave 2000 when ECW went to California and you had Supreme and a bunch of XPW talent sitting front row and they got into the confrontation. What was it? Francine, Danny Doring, Roadkill, and others. I don't know. The point is, they're all pro wrestlers. Do not do that with UFC. That just asinine, stupid, dumb, moronic. My God, that was just awful. Now, if you go to this link, and I'll plug it one more time for the rest of the show, tinyurl.com/DTTKOSEC. You could get the whole report. I think it's page 10 of the report. And they talk about the outlook. It's pretty much the companies. And they also labeled who they consider competition. Because the thing is that UFC cannot get involved with a pro wrestling company, even for a match or an angle or something. And WWE cannot get involved with a MMA company. There would be deemed conflict of interest, maybe. But they actually spelled out who they consider competition. Very, very interesting, especially when you look at New Japan Pro Wrestling. I guarantee you those who read this already probably didn't even think about that because there were a lot of rumors about some little working agreement, stuff like this. So anyway, this is straight from the filing for those that don't have video. This is what it says in there. It says the markets in which we operate are highly competitive, rapidly changing, and increasingly fragmented, both within the United States and internationally, and we may not be able to compete effectively, which would adversely affect our operating results. Okay? Now they say compete effectively. We face competition from a variety of other domestic and foreign companies. We also face competition from alternative providers of the content and events that we offer, including Bellator, M1, Global, Professional Fighters League, Combat Global, Invicta FC, Cage Warriors, AMC Fight Nights. Isn't CM Punk doing commentary for one of those? I think he did commentary last night for one of those companies. One Championship, Ryzen Fighting Federation, Absolute Championship, Akmat, Pancrase, I almost said Pancreas, Cage Steel, Eagle Fighting Championship, KSW, Extreme Fighting Championship, All Elite Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and from other forms of media, entertainment, and leisure activities in a rapidly changing and increasingly fragmented environment. Other new and exciting professional wrestling leagues also compete with our goods and services. For the sale of our consumer products, we compete with entertainment companies, professional and college sports leagues, and other markets of branded apparel and merchandise. Any increased competition which may not be foreseeable or a failure to adequately address any competitive factors could result in a reduced demand for our content, our live events, or brand, which can have an adverse effect on our business, financial condition, and results of operation. In other words, it'll hurt our bottom line. So, when you think about the MLW lawsuit, I think MLW is probably offended that they weren't mentioned in there. I mean, that's kind of, well, actually, you know what? They're very smart. Because if MLW would have been put in there, I wonder if MLW would have went to the current lawsuit and say, ha-ha, look, they even deem us competition. Ha-ha, Stephanie told that. So there you go. So there's your AEW reference here. AEW, I got to mention it quickly and then we'll get right back to TKO. I feel bad for Will Ospreay. Now, when I saw this, I immediately thought of a moment in history that ended up turning out to be, well, you call it fraud, but see, the thing is, I'm being straight honest with you. I don't know if Tony Khan was just fed wrong information. I will say this, though, and I know I'm the only show that pointed this out. Do you remember SummerSlam? Do you remember when SummerSlam announced their paid attendance or how many people were there? Whatever it was. And it ended up being like 9 or 10,000 seats more, or, attendance more than what WrestleTix reported and the media darlings. We'll just call them that. I don't want to single anybody out anymore. We'll just call them the media darlings, the elite media darlings. Remember how they would post like grids of the seats and say this, and then it ended up like 9 or 10,000 seats different. Okay. Those same media have been feeding numbers. And the weird thing about it was, if I bought 5 tickets for AEW All In, and I didn't put them on eBay, and I didn't put them on a secondary resale market, how would WrestleTix and the media darlings know that I bought 5 tickets? They could only get it from AEW. If AEW told them we sold 68,314 tickets so far, that's the only way they would have gotten it. How would you have known that I bought tickets? Maybe I was going to put it on eBay, but I forgot. Maybe I had it online and I took it down. So when people report these numbers, always keep in the back of your mind that they either making it up, exaggerating it, or getting it straight from the company themselves. And the thing is that AEW absolutely knew how many tickets they sold. And the number was 81,035. Tony Khan decides to tell the world that the paid attendance at AEW All In was 81,035. Now, without getting into this whole repetitive long story again, if you remember months ago, I showed you what Wembley looks like at 50,000, 70,000, 80,000, and 90,000 seats filled. And when people saw 81,000, they said, wait a minute, there's no way there's only 9,000 seats empty, but still 81,035. I always thought, okay, that is very likely the amount of tickets that were sold. So now it came out because I guess people didn't realize that the United States is not the only country with the Freedom of Information Act. And the United Kingdom has that also. And when you have events like this, you can request through the Brent Council via the Freedom of Information Act, you want to know how many tickets were sold at this event, or how many times did the turnstiles turn at Wembley. And I got into this on Wednesday Night Dynamite, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing again, but, if anybody that ever went to a train station and you had to go through a turnstile, this metal thing that kind of hits you in the nuts or in the stomach, depending on how tall you are, and then it keeps revolving and keeps revolving. Baseball stadiums do it, football, a lot of places do it. It's not just designed so one person goes through at a time, or to prevent people just, all running into the building. It's done because there's a counter. There's a counter. When it clicks, there's a counter. And it counts every time the turnstile turns. So people requested from the United Kingdom, how many times did the turnstile turn? I just can't believe that the elite media and the whack jobs online didn't say that maybe 9,000 people jumped over the turnstile. Maybe they didn't go through the. I'm still waiting for a whack job to say that. Maybe somebody was handicapped. Maybe there was 9,000 people in wheelchairs and they had to wheel them around the turnstile. You haven't seen any of that nonsense yet. I promise you, some whack job's going to be like, there was a lot of handicapped people. And you can't go through a turnstile. Try to go through a turnstile with a wheelchair and film it. You'll get 1 million views. So anyway, the Freedom of Information Act came back and said at AEW All In, 72,265 times the turnstiles turned. That 81,035 number was fake. I still think there is a chance that number is the total amount of tickets that are sold. But because Tony Khan wanted to publicly surpass WWE, there's a lot of weird people online that AEW has to be number one over WWE for something, and notice how Tony Khan hasn't said a damn thing about this because he knows the truth. So when I saw that, I immediately thought about this. If people that don't know who the story behind Rosie Ruiz, go look it up. But to me, that's like Rosie Ruiz, and she's wearing, the runner number 81,035, but it was 72,265. Now, you have a lot of wrestling fans. This is where we get to Will Ospreay. You have a lot of wrestling fans online that are trying to figure out how can we still keep that 81,035 number? What is the definition of attendance? What does that really mean? Will Ospreay, while whack jobs on social media, the media darlings and weird wrestling fans are trying to figure out how the 81,035 number is legit and was the total people there, Will Ospreay, the man who was there, the man who performed amazingly at All In, the man that was so happy and emotionally happy about what happened. He actually tattooed 81,035 on his arm because he believed that what he was told by AEW Tony Khan to be correct. Now, you would say to yourself, well, maybe AEW and Tony Khan were correct, and maybe this freedom of information was wrong. And maybe Will Ospreay could have taken that side. Listen, guys, I know that's the kind. Will Ospreay himself came out and said this. Actually, let me raise the audio level. Hold on a second. We're probably going to play this twice because I got to boost up his audio.
In Japan, I've had no fucking sleep. I am tired.
Okay. I had to boost the audio up. That's the only way we could get it actually louder. All right, here you go.
Bruv, you cannot make this fucking shit up. I am currently in Japan. I've had no fucking sleep. I am tired. And I'll wake up. This is the worst fucking day of my life. Do you know how hard it was for me to get a tattoo? My mum fucking hates them, bruv. They announced it to everyone. They announced it to 81,000 people. I've got this fucking thing on my arm.
Is that the last time you'll ever see Will Ospreay in AEW? He even believes it to be bullshit. You're right, Austin. Damn. Seriously. That guy was so emotionally invested in that number being part of history. Listen, 72,265 is still an awesome number. It's still an awesome number. But, I mean, it's almost like, you're dating a girl and you go to a tattoo shop and say, I want her name. Wait, what was that? Didn't they do something on Seinfeld where somebody got something tattooed and it was spelled wrong or something like that? Or maybe a birthday cake was spelled wrong. At least that's a little Will Ospreay now has got this fake fucking number on his arm. Does that sound like a guy that thinks, no, I think it is 81,000. That's got to be wrong. Even he knows. See, you got to take this with the good and take it with the bad. AEW did history that night. It sucks it was overshadowed by the Jack Perry CM Punk shit. They made history that night. No question. But you got to also understand when you're dealing with someone who is not a publicly traded company, that doesn't have to answer to investors, that does not have to be subject to possibly criminal fraud if you skew numbers to try to get people to invest. You can pull shit like this. You could make exaggerated claims. The problem is you better be careful. I personally think AEW's legal department, the EVPs, I don't think anybody had half a brain to say, hey, Tony, the UK has a Freedom of Information Act. And, if anybody requests how many clicks of the turnstiles, they may come out with a different number. I don't think anybody thought that. As much as we appreciate Tony Khan for giving us a great alternative, type of wrestling, and seeing some wrestlers that honestly, if they weren't in AEW, we would never see them on TV anymore. So I appreciate what he's doing. You just got to understand, though, in the world of pro wrestling, Andre the Giant was 900 pounds a week before he died at WrestleMania 3. Brother, people exaggerate. And just because Tony Khan looks like a lovable little, hairy doll doesn't mean that he's not going to. The guy wanted to surpass WWE at all costs. And when Wembley came this close, they put the total tickets sold as the paid attendance. That's what I believe. I do believe there is a good chance they sold 81,000 tickets, but he took the total paid tickets and said it was a paid attendance, therefore surpassing WWE, and he got caught. And if you think that I'm wrong and you think that I'm full of shit, let me remind you of this.
Bruv, you cannot make this fucking shit up. I am currently in Japan. I've had no fucking sleep. I am tired. And I wake up. This is the worst fucking day of my life.
The worst fucking day of my life.
Do you know how hard it was for me to get a tattoo? My mum fucking hates them, bruv. They announced it to everyone. They announced it to 81,000 people. I've got this fucking thing on my arm.
You know what? I've never been a Will Ospreay fan, but I kind of like him now. Not because he's laughing it off like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you feel for him. You feel for him. I just wonder if anybody else got that tattoo as well and are just not posting it out of fear of being embarrassed. I feel bad for the guy. But yeah, that is the controversy going around. Now, speaking of taking the good with the bad, I got to share something else with you. And I feel bad for them. I really do. Especially because nobody's reporting it. If you follow my shows, especially on Monday, we cover the Impact Wrestling rating every week. And for some reason, a lot of places don't. You know, the number is low, obviously, but you know, you got Impact trying to take their shit to the next level. You got Trinity there. You got some others, big names there. They got good event. And they just celebrated their 1,000th episode of Impact. They did an event broken up into 2 nights. This past Thursday was night 1 of Impact Wrestling episode 1,000, celebrating 1,000 episodes. I'll get into it on Monday because I don't have the exact number yet, but I will tell you this. Impact Wrestling didn't even break the top 150 for this past Thursday. Their demo was between 0.01 and 0.02. That is on average 20 times less than AEW. That is on average almost 30 times less than SmackDown. That is almost 15 to 20 times less than NXT. What the only number smaller than 0.01 is 0.00. If they had any boost of viewers Thursday, it was old wrestling fans from 20 years ago. Wrestling fans with Nielsen boxes that are now in their 50s, 60s, and maybe 70s. They couldn't, with the 1,000 episode, and they've been in the 150. New Japan has been in the top 150. Not only did they not make the 150 Thursday, but their demo was less than 0.02. Lower than what they normally get. So they may, and I'm seeing, listen, anybody on audio right now hearing this, there are people in the chat room that watched Impact 1000 and said they loved it. Impact 1000, I saw highlights of it. I didn't sit down and watch the whole thing yet. You know, there's just a lot of crazy shit going on. But from what I liked, I saw. Seeing some people from yesteryear, Tracy Brooks looked great. You know, I don't want to start singling out people, but it was a fun episode. And I just can't believe that it didn't get more eyes on it. So they may have had a little bit of a boost in viewership. Somebody told me 138,000. I'm trying to confirm that number. I think the week before was like around 110. But that means like the majority of them were old, just like NXT. Yo, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if you remember Wednesday Night Dynamite, we talked about Becky Lynch breaking 1 million for her match against Tiffany Stratton. But I don't ever talk about demos unless it's newsworthy. But if you watched the demos This is what happened with Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton. When their match started, their viewership went up about 170,000, give or take a little bit. But the demo only went up 20,000. A majority of the people that tuned in were not in the 18 to 49 demographic. So although Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton broke 1 million, their match only increased their demo. And there were quarters that night where the demo was almost the same. So, when you are so into the demos, understand even with Impact Wrestling, that is disappointing. Very disappointing. So, all right. We're not going to repeat Nick Khan's comments on CM Punk. We talked about that Wednesday. Again, what I will say is his wording was carefully designed for legal reasons. WWE has no idea what is going on legally with CM Punk and AEW. They have no idea if a lawsuit's going to be filed. They have no idea if he has a compete, no compete, even though if CM Punk told his closest friends and they told WWE and so on and so on and so on. Legally, they're not going to put themselves in a situation where there could be a problem. So Nick Khan didn't reveal his cards, if they would bring him in or if they would not bring him in. He just said, we wish him well. Smart thing to do. For the newswire out there that is saying that our sources tell us that WWE has the doors wide open for Stephanie McMahon to return, let me give you where that came from. That came from Nick Khan himself. Nick Khan was interviewed not just about CM Punk and not just about TKO. He was asked about Stephanie McMahon. And he said, as far as Stephanie McMahon goes, quote, while I don't know what the future holds, but with Vince as the chairman of the company, Paul, Triple H, as the head of creative, me and that role that I'm in, Stephanie, if Stephanie wanted to do something with WWE, of course, WWE would embrace that. The WWE Universe would embrace that. I think she's enjoying her time off. And you know the drill. After grinding hard, as you've grinded hard, as she has grinded hard, to take a few months off, she still has school-aged children. She and Paul do. I think she's enjoying herself. But he specifically said that if Stephanie wanted to return, the door is open. So their sources just read an interview. Just like the sources out there that are saying Matt Riddle could return to Monday's Raw. That's not news or sources. That's medical scientific information. As you heard on my show, and I give a shout out to everybody who, credited me for it. I don't look for the credit, but I found it hilarious. People that absolutely refused to report the truth because they didn't like where the source came from. Matt Riddle is out 2 to 6 weeks with an inner ear infection, double inner ear infection, and he had some bronchial issues. That didn't happen at JFK Airport because some asshole said to me yesterday, oh, DT, if he comes back Monday, that means he was only gone a week and you were wrong. I'm like, no, he actually was under the weather in India, and he's had that now for about 2.5 weeks. So whatever the recovery time is, if he's good enough to go, he'll be back this Monday. Now, Drew McIntyre is going to take on Jey Uso. So they may not need Matt Riddle back for this Monday's Raw. If he's well enough, he'll return. That's it. I don't need to get into anything else. And honestly, I don't think I need to, DM, him or, Misha or anybody else. Can you come back Monday? When he's ready to come back, he can return. But the most important thing is, he's not off TV because of the JFK incident. You know the truth. So there you go. Now, as a result of the WWE TKO merger, releases were going to happen in the office field. And the reason being is because you have two companies consolidating into one. WWE had a board of directors of 11 back in the day, or 7, whatever it is, whatever their number is. Now TKO has the board of directors consisting of 6 from UFC and Endeavor and 5 from WWE. Consolidating. If you have somebody that you feel does a better job at what they do for Endeavor, you bring them on board for TKO. So some names that were let go in the WWE does not mean that their job performance sucked or anything like that. It's just TKO. They didn't just do this overnight, guys. Over the last 6 months, TKO has been looking at the very high ups, the higher ups in both companies and seeing, okay, vice president of digital, developmental, whatever. WWE has their version, UFC has their version, or TKO, which one is a better fit for our future? You know, when you have 200 employees in Stamford, Connecticut, I'm just throwing a random number out there. If you have 200 employees in Stamford, Connecticut, and you got 150 or 300 employees on the other side, and you merge it to one company, you know, it's not like the Brady Bunch, you know, where everybody just lives together and then they adopt a dog and some weird kid with Buster Brown haircut, Oliver. You know, you have to let people go. And I'm watching the media this week like breaking, shocking news, releases. No shit. No shit. But some notable names I think everybody doesn't give a shit about except for one. Jamie Horowitz. He's only been there for a year and a half. Jamie Horowitz, he's done. They didn't feel that he was fit for the future. The vice president of and head of marketing, Catherine Newman, she's gone. She hasn't even been there a year. You know, understand, WWE's been up for sale for a couple of years. Understand this. And while everybody, and I'm not crapping on Mike Johnson. He did the research. He deserves the credit. Well, while everybody is fondling Mike Johnson and saying, Mike Johnson learned this, let me explain something. We had something since 2020 called, I don't know, COVID. So when they returned to live fans and touring, they had to fill and add some executive roles that are very instrumental in what they were doing. So when they were able to start touring again and you started having business picking up in 2022 and 2021, yeah, some of these people were brought on. But WWE was still, hey, if we get the right offer, Nick Khan's been saying it for a couple of years. If we get the right offer, sure, we would consider selling WWE. And they got the right offer. These people became expendable. It's not breaking news. It's common sense. These are not the only person out of anybody that I personally think is a big deal is Andy Levine. Andy Levine was there since 2018, which even that is not that long ago. And he was the vice president, international and platform strategy. So he was involved with a lot of the digital media of WWE, international, social media. He was involved, but again, on the opposite side, they had their personnel as well, and they see who is a better fit. There is a report going around that Dana Warrior was let go. Dana Warrior was involved in WWE's community outreach. Now, a lot of other names have been let go. It's just that they're not notable, so nobody will mention them. But just so you're aware, this is how WWE handled it. Nick Khan sent out a memo, an email to all employees of World Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated earlier this week. And I'm going to read it to you, and then take note at the very end of it, because it's cute, because you could read between the lines what he was telling the people. And they knew this was coming. But Nick Khan says, this is how it was handled. He sent an internal email to all employees, and it said, as part of WWE's transition into the newly formed TKO Group Holdings, we are evaluating and existing operations and systems to identify potential synergies, remember Brady Bunch, across the business. This effort includes workforce reductions, which will take place tomorrow. Those whose roles have been impacted will be notified by our human resources team, who will also share the details of their severance package. In other words, those that we feel are no longer needed will be contacted the following day by human resources, and they will be given a severance package, 6 months pay, whatever the deal is. That's my wording. Anyway, finish it up. Nick Khan says, this is the best part, we are asking everyone to work remotely on Friday, September 15th, so we can ensure all conversations are handled privately and respectfully. In other words, we don't want to have any awkward situations where somebody has to pack up their desk and get the fuck out. So basically what they did, hopefully they didn't use garbage bags. Basically what they did for that day is everybody who was getting canned, they wanted to make sure that there was no physical confrontation, no arguments, no issues. Because if any of you out there has ever been terminated from a job, and it's happened to me once or twice over the years before I opened my own place, and they let you go. They don't say, can I say goodbye to everyone? Can I go take my dad? No, they'll say, we have to have security escort you out of the building, and we will, you could pick up your items tomorrow. We will leave it at the front desk, or we will ship you your items. So that's what they did. They told everybody, stay home, and, we'll notify you if you come back to work on Monday or if your job is done. But understand, when you work for a company and a company, I don't want to say goes out of business, but the company is sold. New people come in. So this side of things, people are worried about. The people who work behind the scenes, they're worried about change. Every single person who worked in Stamford, Connecticut, the last 48 hours was very worried about change. WWE and TKO don't want that same vibe to wrestling fans. What you see on TV feels like WWE wasn't even sold. That's the deal. But the argument about Vince heading creative, that argument is not as strong anymore because people on the board of directors, some of them may love Vince and they love, what he's done for pro wrestling and how big the company has grown. But at the end of the day, if they feel that shit's going in the wrong direction and they think that Vince is heavily involved on that creative side of things, believe me, it will be addressed. Not just because a blogger or somebody on Twitter or a podcaster complains about it. That Vince McMahon argument, doesn't hold as much water anymore because Vince is not the majority owner. If TKO wants to go in a certain direction, they can. That's the thing people need to realize. On TV, I don't think we're going to see much different. I do think down the line, we may get moments where they will have some TV 14. Understand, though, there are people still called advertisers through the USA Network, through Fox, that are advertising because it's of a certain audience, family friendly. It's simulated violence, but it's still TV PG. You start making those changes, it's going to affect your advertisers. It'll affect your investors. That's why what Dana White said is probably, Dana White wasn't just talking about making every WWE fan he's against every WWE fan becoming a UFC fan and vice versa. It's also the business side of things. UFC, in many ways, is not PG TV. UFC, there's blood, there's legit contact violence. Sometimes it's very disturbing. Let's be honest. Sometimes the choice of language is a little extreme. I'm not complaining about it, But that UFC audience is a lot different than the WWE audience. And you do not want that effect in each side. Because trust me, I guarantee you there's some advertisers with UFC that don't want to advertise for WWE shit and vice versa. So you got to look at that side of things, which is very important because that'll affect what you see on TV. I also think on TV, you'll see a little bit more of an MMA influence. And believe me, I explained it on Wednesday, and I'll just say it like this right now. If you watched Wesley versus Ilya on NXT Wednesday, a good example of it is there was one point where Wesley just kicked Ilya right in the fucking face. And he didn't put his hands up. He just stood there, closed his eyes, and took it. And they repeated it. Now, that's still advertiser friendly, and that doesn't suddenly make it TV 14. But, this is not a knock on UFC. But when you watch some of the headshots that happen in MMA matches, I'm not saying that UFC doesn't care about concussions or, head injuries, but, when you fight MMA, you're not going in there with a giant balloon over your head. Like, you hit somebody in the head and it's like a bad cartoon. It just bounces off like you're hitting like a little rubber ball. There are some elevated risks because TKO Holdings is now the majority owner. I think you'll see wrestlers be able to, have some contact. You don't change what wrestling is, but if somebody wants to, start chopping the fuck out of each other, not named Gunther, if they want to slap each other in the face 10 times, why do you think Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair that time became so, iconic for people? Not necessarily because, it was a shoot. They kind of like shot that down already. They were just getting in, the match got intense and it led what it led. But, it's not like, I don't even think people even understand what it means to shoot in a match anymore. But they got a little bit extra. Oh, you slap me in the face, I'll slap you back. See how you take it. They say, see who's the tougher person. You might see a little bit more of the actual contact, and pro wrestling is simulated violence. But you may see someone and say, lay it in on me, as long as you're not going to create injury. So. Okay. 37. 37 is the magic number for Tampa, Florida. I don't know if you all know about this, but Tampa, Florida will be hosting the 37th Royal Rumble Saturday, January 27th at 7:30 p.m. That is the kickoff show. Actually, it may actually start at 7:30 p.m. because it's the Royal Rumble. It goes a little longer. But this was the part of the press release that was sent out. WWE, part of TKO Group Holdings, in conjunction with the Tampa Bay Rays, visit St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, and Tampa Bay to host the 37th Royal Rumble in 2024. Why do I say 37 is the magic number? Remember, they also hosted WrestleMania 37. And as they always say, and this is something you need to remember, the Royal Rumble will be headlined by the 30-man and 30-woman Royal Rumble matches, with the winners of both receiving a championship match opportunity at WrestleMania 40. So not only that, here is some additional events taking place that weekend. WWE will be in town for an entire weekend of events across St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Tampa, Florida, highlighted by the Royal Rumble on Saturday, January 27th at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. 2 days later, Monday Night Raw will emanate from the Amalie Arena in Tampa on January 29th. This marks the first time the Royal Rumble will be held in Tampa Bay since 1995. Royal Rumble priority passes will soon be available through the exclusive partner On Location, giving fans the opportunity to purchase ticket packages before they go on sale to the general public. Royal Rumble priority passes will offer fans the chance to be ringside for every moment, including premium seating, all-inclusive pre-show hospitality with WWE superstar appearances, ringside photo opportunities, exclusive merch, deluxe accommodations, and more. So there is your Royal Rumble announcement. They are coming back to Tampa, Florida. Pretty cool. 37th Royal Rumble. They hosted WrestleMania 37. Oh, thank you, Psycho. We were talking, In Your House Mind Games. Remember we were talking earlier? I'm a little late to let you all know. Remember when I said ECW sat in ringside and they showed up at a WWE event? This was to start the tease, the ECW invasion of 1997. In Your House Mind Games. Oh, I should have remembered that. Isn't that the one where it showed the Mankind mask? Was it? I think it was the Mankind mask. That might have been the one. So, all right. Let's quickly finish up by talking a little SmackDown, talking a little Jade Cargill, because that is a big story. We could even ponder something else, which I may hold until Monday. We'll see. If you haven't checked it out yet, you really should consider checking out my episode of Wednesday Night Dynamite. It is available on DonTony.com. If you're a channel member on YouTube or a Patreon, it's there as well. And we actually, I had to. Whenever I could incorporate Vinny from Family Guy in the shows, you best damn believe that I do. Because CM Punk, we got into not only my thoughts on everything, but we also got into some details that I haven't seen anybody report about it. CM Punk was warned not to have the altercation, and he did it anyway, and he blew it. Oop, I hit the wrong button. So I ruined the moment. But go check out that episode. Some of you were asking earlier, when is the next special episode of the DTKC show? I talked to Kevin on Friday. We are going to do a show together either this Tuesday or next Tuesday. Once I know, it revolves around his schedule, not mine. So once I know, I will definitely let everybody know as well. And we'll do the same format like we always do. So, so before we talk about Jade Cargill, let's fill in a couple of things with regards to SmackDown. And, we already talked about The Rock, Pat McAfee, and Austin Theory opening up the first 20 minutes of SmackDown with some really fun shit. Got butchered by Fox's censors, but you have to expect it for the obvious reasons I mentioned earlier. But then we had a nice little friendly confrontation in the back. The Rock, John Cena, little bit of a stare down. John Cena kind of hinting a little bit of a smile. The Rock is like, I see you trying to smile over there, and they share a hug. We had a couple of hugs. I just realized we had a couple of hugs last night. We had John Cena and The Rock, and we had Jade Cargill. Look at them copying The Rock. That was recorded on Wednesday, so that was a cool moment with Jade Cargill and Kris Statlander as well. We'll talk about her later because, that is legit, everybody. We'll talk about Jade in a few minutes. The generation of Jade. I wonder how they're going to handle that. I don't know if anybody thought about that. So, but anyway, couple of match results and a couple other non-wrestling tidbits from SmackDown yesterday. Finn Balor defeats AJ Styles. Great match. The Judgment Day minus Rhea Ripley were at ringside for the match. They would ultimately get ejected for getting involved a little bit. Gallows and Anderson, are so hurt from being beat down in the back that they were not there. Meechin was a no-show as well. Anybody notice Karrion Kross and Scarlett have also not been there? There's been quite a few people that have not been on TV the last 3 weeks. But Finn Balor, AJ Styles, great match. So now AJ is working all by himself, Finn Balor working all by himself, and we think that AJ is going to get the victory on here, but here comes Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso shows up, distracts AJ Styles. Finn Balor gets the fruit roll-up, and Finn Balor is your winner. Later on, Finn Balor talking to Jimmy Uso in the back, hey, I saw your brother on Monday, and your brother did not say no about joining the Judgment Day. Finn Balor thinks that Jimmy Uso would be a great fit in the Judgment Day. In fact, he would actually like the idea of Jimmy and Jey Uso being in the Judgment Day. And even though Jimmy Uso's playing the heel right now, Jimmy Uso is undecided, if he wants to actually be part of Judgment Day. So, again, make no mistake about it. Even though this is not bad, Jey Uso stuff on Raw is not bad. It's not as good as before, but it's not bad. Jimmy Uso stuff right now, it's not bad. It's not as good as before, but it's not bad. Solo Sikoa right now, not bad. Still not as good as before. Where am I getting with this? The Bloodline storyline hit the brick wall. And they're trying to milk weeks, as we said last week. They're trying to milk weeks. Will the Usos join the Judgment Day? Of course they're not joining the Judgment Day, but they're going to milk this for a month. Willie, won't he? Willie, won't he? Willy Wonka. That's what they're doing here. So Finn Balor kind of, telling Jimmy, hey, join the Judgment. We won't have any Roman Reigns telling you what to do. Something to think about. LA Knight. That doesn't look good. That looks better. Me, I got to be a stickler to detail. LA Knight makes it 2 in a row. Duh. Yeah. Beating The Miz. This was a fun match. I enjoyed this match better than the match at Payback. I mean, we knew who was going to win this match, but this match, I don't know, and it wasn't just the crowd, because the crowd at Payback was awesome. But this match yesterday was great. Ultimately, LA Knight defeats The Miz once again. This time around, LA Knight actually made some challenges. And he said, he is in the top 2. He's top 2 and he ain't number 2. And that's not just a catchphrase. And he actually called out by name Gunther, Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio, even Roman Reigns. He has them all on notice. It doesn't matter who it is, but he has them on notice. We immediately see Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa in the back, and Paul Heyman is all bent out of shape because LA Knight just name-dropped Roman Reigns. So Solo Sikoa is watching on the monitor what LA Knight is saying on TV, and Paul Heyman says that he hasn't received approval or an order from Roman Reigns yet to take out LA Knight. So we may actually see Solo Sikoa and LA Knight going at it soon. And then Paul Heyman tells Solo Sikoa that, he hasn't received any info as far as Jimmy Uso back in the bloodline. Jimmy thinks that he is back in the bloodline. And Paul Heyman, doesn't want to give Solo Sikoa any orders until Roman Reigns calls him. Solo Sikoa looks at Paul Heyman and says, I already know what I need to do. And he's going to finish something tonight. So Solo leaves, and Paul Heyman with his phone, because he can't hit just the green button. He's call Roman Reigns. It's a little bit more dramatic on television. So something very interesting happened yesterday, which may be leading to a match, not just Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar, which we knew was going to be happening. The LWO comes out yesterday. Santos Escobar has nothing but love and respect for Rey. Mentor. Rey has nothing but love and respect for Santos Escobar, but Santos Escobar wants a title shot because gold is bigger than familia. So Rey Mysterio is honored to defend the United States Championship against Santos Escobar. And this brings out Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Why did we have this confrontation and a stare down? Look at Montez Ford. Montez Ford is like just taking it in. Yeah, unfortunately, guys, what we have come to realize, even though a lot of people were in denial for a long time, that Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro are pretty much job guys. I hate using that term, but we call it like we see it. Street Profits come out while Ray and Santos are having this love fest. Bobby Lashley isn't really thrilled about it. Bobby Lashley kind of insinuated that maybe he wants a title shot, and the Street Profits are there. The next thing you know, we end up with an impromptu match of the Street Profits versus Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. Street Profits beat them in about 3 minutes. And after the match is over, the Street Profits are looking at Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley's giving them the look like they did a couple of weeks ago. You know, what the fuck you doing? You won. You know, finish them off. So they start pretty much healing it up, and they're beating the balls off of Wilde and Del Toro. So Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio are trying to pull the Street Profits off. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Bobby Lashley enters the ring, and he has this stare down with Rey Mysterio. And Ray can't believe his eyes because they're friends. And what happens? Street Profits start attacking Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. The crowd doesn't know how to react to it, but next week we have the tag match, the Street Profits versus Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. So Bobby Lashley, and you know, it's interesting because Bobby Lashley baby facing it completely with the fans, slapping hands, you know, before the match. But I like it. I mean, we've seen this, you know, with Bobby Lashley. He's like, you know, what are you doing? That's not enough. You know, you got to finish them motherfuckers off. But again, Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro, they lose like this. We had Asuka defeating Bayley. Remember, next week, Asuka gets the championship opportunity against Io Sky, which is pretty cool. This was pretty much, can we get Asuka a little momentum leading into this match? So obviously, she fights fellow the Damage Control member of Io Sky's Bayley. Match was good. Ultimately, in the end, Asuka gets the win. Bayley a little bit freaked out because Shotzi was sitting at ringside, and for some reason Bayley is extremely scared of Shotzi, even if Shotzi doesn't have that electric razor that somehow has hacked the speakers in the building. She just jumps the guardrail, and Bayley starts getting out of dodge, and Shotzi's starting to grow her hair in a little bit. Her hair grew quite a bit in a matter of, a month? So Shotzi wants a fist bump with Asuka, and Asuka's kind of like holding off. And remember, guys, isn't Asuka technically supposed to be a heel here? So Shotzi, you know, helps Asuka, you know, with a little bit of a distraction, but Asuka not so receptive. I think Asuka's character has to be a little bit more defined. But you know what? We actually talked about it right before I went on vacation. Asuka, even though she's been playing the heel, crowd still loves her, man. And she is really, really interactive on social media now. And she put some people in her place, but she is still a heavily fan favorite. So Asuka gets the win. And also Pretty Deadly made a little bit of a cameo. It was funny because Adam Pearce is like, why are you still in the wheelchair? Like, why are you in a wheelchair if you have an arm injury? But, you know, Elton Prince and Kit Wilson will be back in the ring very, very soon. So it was very cool to see them make a little bit of appearance yesterday. But that pretty much was your episode of SmackDown. We talked about what happened earlier with John Cena, Grayson Waller effect. That closed out SmackDown. And, look, Jimmy Uso coming out, healing it up, telling John Cena, nobody wants you here. The crowd obviously wants him there. And then this is when we get Solo Sikoa. It was pretty cool at the end. Paul Heyman does not give any orders to Solo Sikoa, but when Jimmy Uso was getting his ass kicked from John Cena, save Jimmy. So Solo Sikoa pulled Jimmy Uso out of the ring. And we go off the air that way. But like I said, it looks like John Cena and AJ Styles tag match, pretty likely to happen. And, Cena will be around still for another month and a half? So they got plenty of time, but obviously it's leading to a match or two. We got to pay attention to Saudi Arabia. Not yet, ready to start putting matches together. But, you reintroduced The Rock. I know there's still TV deals and negotiations going on. Some people said, they put The Rock back on TV yesterday because of TV negotiations. No. You don't put The Rock back on TV for one night. And you don't even know if it's going to pop a rating because a lot of people, mostly everyone, had no idea that The Rock was going to appear. You think anybody in that crowd knew? Did you hear anybody chanting Rocky right before he even came out when Pat McAfee was talking about that it was a people show? They fucking lost their shit when he came out. This was more because they were in Colorado. The merger just happened. They're going to talk business. We'll see where it goes from here. So, before we finish up, we talk about Jade Cargill. I should have said this earlier, but I forgot to. I'm not going to lie. I forgot to mention it. Where is my super shout outs? They kind of disappeared on me. Let me see. I think I have them here, but for some reason it's not showing on the screen. Huh. Very, very strange. Very strange. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. Just disappeared. Well, anyway. I want to give a shout out to Mikey Ravello, who sent the 10 spot earlier. DT, I love you, but do you actually think that 9,000 tickets were sold that ended up being no-shows at AEW All In? Honestly, I don't know if you tuned into Wednesday's show, but I answered it this way. If you had a wrestling event and you had 1,000 people in, 1,000 seats, 1,000 tickets. And it ends up that 900 people showed and 100 tickets did not show. Yeah, for indie wrestling, scalpers are not normally going to buy that. Why would a scalper buy a ticket for an indie wrestling event that only seats 1,000? But if you have a wrestling event, a WWE or AEW event, and it seats 5,000 people. You mean to tell me that 500 tickets couldn't be bought by people who were going to go but couldn't make the event or scalpers? If you have an event that seats 5,000 people and you learn later on that 500 tickets or 400 tickets, I think that's the right percentage, 400 tickets were bought and he didn't show. You mean to tell me that it's not inconceivable that maybe 100 people bought tickets but last minute couldn't show for whatever reason? Or maybe the other 300 bought tickets and tried to sell them online for too much money and got stuck with them? So if it doesn't sound out of the ordinary with 5,000 seats in an arena, you're talking about a building that put tickets on sale months ago that seats 90,000 people, that was tens of thousands of tickets was sold instantly. You mean to tell me that every scalper alive who do this to make a living, and I brought this up Wednesday, back in the day, if you bought tickets and you wanted to sell it for a lot more money, you had to stand outside the building the day of the event. Hey, I got front row tickets here, $500, And then the show's about to start. Nobody bought the tickets. Hey, I got front row seats here, $400. Nobody still wants to buy. Hey, $200. Halfway through the show, $50. You know, I mean, I probably would buy them, but now you're looking at a building that seats 90,000 and it's history, on the way to history. Everybody and their mother's trying to buy tickets. Plus the Boondocks, the tickets were cheap. So if it doesn't sound crazy that 100 people at a 5,000 seat event couldn't make the show, and you multiply that by 10, why couldn't 1,000 people not show for a 50,000 seat event? I'm not saying that 9,000 tickets were bought and then got stuck. Some people think Tony Khan bought tons of tickets. I don't know. All I know is that 72,000 people showed and supposedly 81,000 tickets were sold. If you take a zero off of that or 2 zeros off of that, and you say to yourself, if it was a 9,000 seat building and 800 tickets didn't show, would that sound all that crazy? No, I don't think so. So it's an insane number, but do you realize the level of greed online when people are trying to sell tickets for $7,000. And then a week before the event, those $7,000 tickets become $3,000. And then it's 3-4 days before that. Plus, not everybody lives by Wembley. A lot of people who went didn't even live in that area. So you're buying tickets. You may not even live in the United Kingdom and bought tickets. How many people are, I just happen to be around Wembley. Let me buy these tickets and show up. It's complicated, man. It's complicated. So, yeah, Sam says no one understands about tickets and sold in attendance. No, people understand it. People just don't want to believe it. 9,000 is a huge number. No question. But it's not out of the possibility. And look, if it ended up that Tony Khan bought a bunch of tickets, hey, you do what you want, man. If you're trying to sell something, you want to try to inflate, that you sold a lot, you might buy a couple of your own things. It's not out of the ordinary. I've seen some people do it, even in the food industry. If you buy something, 100 of something, right now in New York, there is an item called, I think it's Mike's Hot Honey, something like that. It's insane how many of these bottles go off the shelf. I think it's called Mike's Hot Honey. And, you buy 100 bottles for your store. Oh, I got it in this store. It's selling like crazy. You buy 5 bottles and you bring them home. Look, they're selling like crazy. I mean, it's not out of the ordinary. It's not cooking the books, Psycho. It's not cooking the books. If you pay, you put your money out and you buy it just like anybody else, it's not. Publicly traded company, you get in a shitload of trouble, though. All right. Let me see who else we got a shout out, and then we'll talk about Jade. Rizzo with a 10 spot. DT, why do I think that Impact gets very little attention? It seems like NXT got hot when Impact was at its worst. And then AEW came and haven't heard about much of them since. NXT and Impact Wrestling are totally different. And Impact Wrestling has a lot of mainstream stars. I think the problem is that since there's only 100,000 people tuning in, when I do a show, and I do it on Wednesday, this is just from my experience, and I do a show on Wednesday, or even when I do questions, 98% of those questions will have to do with WWE and AEW, if it's wrestling related. Unfortunately, for every 50 questions I get, one might be from Impact Wrestling. So the reason why I don't cover Impact as much is because almost everybody tuning in does not watch it, does not, pay attention to it. I will always mention it because I think people should. It's a fun show, but I will never tell you what to do. When it comes to a lot of the people in media, they're not going to waste their time putting out all of this work just to have a couple of people tune into it. That's the problem. And until they start either getting something in return or getting a larger audience to check it out, they don't care. And like I said, even people who their business is ratings. This is not a shot on Brandon Thurston and others because he ultimately posts the ratings. But you see people out there that cover this stuff and they don't even waste their time to look. At least I, check my old accounts or contact someone or try to get it through someone else or do a little research and I get the numbers 9 times out of 10. For some other people out there, they got better things to do. Unfortunately, that's just a fact. And it sucks. But, if their audience is not interested, they won't put in the work. So, all right. Let's talk briefly about Jade Cargill. Yesterday, Rampage went down. And first, some match results. The Lucha Bros and the Hardys, they defeated Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, the Butcher, and the Blade. The Kingdom over Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, who are the current Trios champions, they defeated, very viable opponents. The Outrunners of Peter Avalon. So great that they don't even get featured on the banner. Aussie Open over Lord Cruz and Damian Chambers. But the match everybody is talking about, Kris Statlander retains her TBS championship, defeating Jade Cargill. For those that didn't see the match yesterday, I watched it. It felt like about 10 minutes. And believe it or not, this might have been the best match in Jade Cargill's career. Or second best match. I mean, she really put it all out there. Now, if you remember, last Sunday when I got stuck in Florida, we talked quickly about Jade Cargill because she had made a return a week before. And a week ago, we had no idea that she was leaving AEW. But what I had said a week ago was, look, I'm fine with Jade Cargill returning. I just hope that during her absence, she trained. And I don't just mean sit-ups, jumping jacks, and curls, and push-ups and pull-ups. I mean actually train wrestling-wise and try to improve her craft. Yesterday, I don't know if she trained while she was off TV or because it was so emotional that it just put her in a different zone and she just put in a lot harder work into it. But they put on a pretty good match, man. Great thing about it is they didn't need weapons. You didn't have to use blood. You didn't have to use your typical AEW rules. You just had a straight up good match between the two. In the end, Jade Cargill is awarded her second loss in AEW, and Kris Statlander, lifting Jade Cargill's arm up. And Jade Cargill, very emotional throughout this match. So the rumors that we heard, if you saw it on Jade Cargill's face. And after the match was over, they shared a hug. And, there was some worry that the hug was not going to be shown on television. And they hugged it out. And this appears to be Jade Cargill's last match in AEW. The rumors came out at the beginning of the week that Jade Cargill came back to have a final match in AEW. She, as of right now, is done with AEW, and she is on her way to WWE. It's going to be really interesting to see the reaction online. Because with Cody Rhodes, it's different, and not because he's an EVP or, at the time, or whatever you want to label him, or because he had history in the WWE, but With Jade Cargill, you know this, and I'm going to just tell it like it is. Because she's a woman, people are going to tread carefully before they call her a traitor, a sellout. You know, look at what AEW did for you. They gave you this historic undefeated run, and you get one loss, and then you thank them and you leave for greener pastures. Because, my friends, let's be honest, a boatload of people are thinking that in the back of their mind right now, but do not have the balls to say it publicly. And you know what? That's the right thing to do. Because whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, AEW has never had a large focus on the women's division there. You can have a TBS champion, a women's champion. You could have one match on every Dynamite. You might get lucky and get 2 women's matches on a pay-per-view. I mean, my God, I don't have it in front of me, but look at the upcoming advertisements for Collision. Tickets going on sale. They're going to be in California. They're going to be here. Go look at the banners. I should have downloaded one. If you look at the banner that shows who's on Collision right now, who's going to be appearing in the upcoming months, there is only 2 women on the front, and one is a valet for the House of Black. And that's not against Julia Hart. There is no women featured on there. The only woman on the banner is Kris Statlander. You know, so AEW, women wrestling is not a priority. It is part of it, but on a main dinner course, you know, it's the veggies. You know, it's not a main part. Jade Cargill doesn't have the amount of TV time, house shows, opponents that is going to hone her craft to become, you know, the next big thing. She is on her way to superstardom. But when you look at the abilities of someone like a Rhea Ripley or Charlotte Flair, if you want to go even like a Toni Storm or a Jamie Hayter, understand that Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter and all your other, you know, women in AEW that are really at the top of their game, they didn't go through the QT Marshall school or the Dustin Rhodes school or the Nightmare Factory. They were fucking stars before they came even to AEW. You look at even some women that are in WWE today. They went to NXT first, but they were already great overseas doing what they were doing or wrestling, you know, wherever they were wrestling. So Jade Cargill, if she would have remained in AEW, how was she going to hone her skills? How was she going to take it to the next level? Why would AEW even waste their time to take it to the next level? They gave her this incredible run. A lot of the matches were just statistics based. And Jade Cargill, you know, looks like she looks like she should be on the level down the line of a Rhea Ripley or a Charlotte Flair. She's got the height. She's got the strength. She's got the look. She's got everything about her looks superstar. But unfortunately, it ain't going to go to those levels in AEW. She'll become a mega polished star somewhere else, and then she could possibly return to AEW. You don't go to AEW to learn how to wrestle. And if you're not very good, you know, you either have to have a very, very close elite friend, or you're just enhancement talent, or you're just thankful for the opportunity and you see what you see on TV. Maybe I could get a spot in Ring of Honor. So Jade Cargill is out, and I personally think she is on a collision course with Charlotte Flair. I searched the net to try to find 2 pictures of these women that look similar to each other. And when I found this picture of Jade Cargill and this picture of Charlotte Flair, I mean, their bodies, their height, even their outfits are freaking almost identical. And that's not them copying each other. You picture them in the ring, face to face. That absolutely could happen. Sam says it's 3 or 4 years away. Why would you even say that? Why is it 3 or 4 years away? Why? Because Jade Cargill is fighting, she just had a great match with Kris Statlander yesterday on Rampage. I don't know if you saw it. Of course, if she's going to face Charlotte Flair, she's going to have to amp it up even better. But that is not out of the question. I mean, we've seen, listen, I'm not comparing Jade Cargill to Bad Bunny or Logan Paul, but we've seen what someone is capable of doing within 6 months of having a WrestleMania match. Jade Cargill already knows how to wrestle. She already knows how to work the ring. She just needs someone to get her to the next level. Shout out to Andre Stone. Just became a channel member. Welcome, my friend. It is not out of the question. I mean, if we listen, and I'm not saying it because they're both dark-skinned, but the first person that came to mind for me is Omos. Omos, a lot of people don't think he's that great of a wrestler. He put on a banger with Braun Strowman overseas. He had a great match with Brock Lesnar. You mean to tell me that Jade Cargill sucks so much that Charlotte Flair couldn't pull off a good match with her? I tend to disagree. I think the money match for these two women is Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. They are so similar physically. Plus, Jade, I think, has publicly said that she would love to wrestle Charlotte Flair. And I think Charlotte Flair is also given a lot of compliments to Jade Cargill. Under the WWE machine, if Jade Cargill wants it, that's the question you got to understand here. She is a mom. She has a family life. She has outside, ventures, hobbies. We don't know how much she wants it. So if Jade Cargill wants it the same level that you see some other WWE women, she will make it. And you look at the poster already. If that was your WrestleMania match, she already looks the part. Now she just needs to put it together a little bit more to play the part. And the storyline is already caked in. It's already caked in. Jade Cargill gets in her face right off the bat. I mean, that is so easy. But here is the $1 million question. And it's definitely a legit question to ask. Should Jade Cargill go to NXT first? That is the question. And, I was thinking about it the last couple of days. Like, if she goes to NXT, where can I see her fitting in? And I know some people are going to give me bullshit for this one. I could see her going in there and just starting to toss people like a salad. And I don't know how people will react to that, because if you bring her in and she's just dominating everyone, some people, it might give them a bad vibe. But look at it like this. If you were Shawn Michaels, you now had Jade Cargill, you mean to tell me you would have Jade Cargill wrestle 10 minutes? I mean, you would think the formula would be she squashes people. The thing is, though, is she has to have long matches with some top-tier talent along the way, and not just some random shit. So the question is, does she stop in NXT for a little while? I don't know. And I personally, I lean more to putting her in NXT for a year, because you bring her to the main roster. Yeah, easy feud with Charlotte Flair. And then what? Feud with Bianca Belair? Maybe. Draft next year, she goes to Raw, feuds with Rhea Ripley? Maybe. you start thinking after WrestleMania. I will tell you this. If I'm WWE and they sign Jade Cargill, even if it's October 1st, do not put her on TV right away. Let her train at the Performance Center 2-3 months, maybe even 4 months. Put her in the Royal Rumble. How would you all feel if she won the 2024 Royal Rumble? I know some of you are going to say, too much, too soon. We don't know who's going to be champion at that time. I personally think maybe no NXT, but instead, you keep her in a Performance Center 2, 3, 4 months, see how she's progressing. If they feel that her and Charlotte Flair could pull it off, have her show up at the Rumble, or maybe she just shows up and lays out Charlotte Flair. Points to the WrestleMania sign. That's it. Charlotte Flair could come out and cut a promo. Nobody wants to face me at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is coming up, and Charlotte Flair doesn't have any, and then just have Jade Cargill lay her out, point to the sign. There you go. There's your match. You don't have to say a damn thing. If WWE thinks after a couple of months, I don't know if her and Charlotte would work well at WrestleMania yet, then you put her in NXT and you have her run in NXT. And then you worry about WrestleMania 41. Jade Cargill, again, like I said earlier about The Rock and Roman Reigns, if you have to wait an extra year, Charlotte Flair, look, Charlotte's getting up there in age, but Charlotte is not retiring in 1 year. So Charlotte will still be fine. Jade Cargill obviously will still be fine. So they can definitely postpone it. But I think right now, you sign her, you put her in a Performance Center, you leave her there 2, 3, 4 months, see how she progresses. And if everything feels and looks good, have her work a little bit with Charlotte Flair in the Performance Center. And if it looks like they could pull it off, then you do that. If you feel, holy shit, she's on a roll, you want to go further and put her in the Royal Rumble and do something crazy there, why not? Why not? If you feel, though, is that, hey, she's got the tools, she just got to put it together, we think WrestleMania 40 might be a little bit too soon, then you put her in NXT. Maybe you just have her show up at Stand and Deliver. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Yeah, someone's name dropping Natty. Absolutely, Tony. I think Natty will definitely help Jade Cargill. Listen, one thing you know for sure is, and I'm not just saying this, anything, I'm not trying to make any, statements or, that there's a lot of women within WWE that will help Jade Cargill. All right, sure, it's competitive, and sure, people, will get afraid, I could lose my spot. But there's enough women in that company that will step up and help her. So she will have the support base out there. She will have the trainers, and she will have the time. And WWE definitely showcases the women 10 times over AEW. It's not even close. And there's nothing against AEW for saying that. It's just that's not AEW's focus. A little bit, couple of stars, couple of storylines, but nothing real strong. I mean, the template. Outside of Jade getting a rematch with Kris Statlander, Chris's run right now is the same exact template as Jade Cargill. Wrestles a random match. Somebody walks down the rampway, talks shit, lays her out. Next thing you know, match on Dynamite. Or she has a match on Dynamite or Rampage or something. Then a week later, we'll hear from Kris Statlander, and she'll just cut a random promo, nothing. Week later, somebody random shows up, calls her out, has the match. 2 weeks later, tag match. Week after that, nothing. And the next thing you know, 6 months go by. They did it with Mercedes Martinez. They did it with Taya Valkyrie. They did it with several people. Just random person shows up. Ruby Soho, same things. Whatever. All right. Collision tonight. one last time, for anybody that is interested in checking it out, there's your card. This is your new Collision post the CM Punk era. Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson versus Ricky Starks and Big Bill. I tell you the truth. You know why I like that match? Although Bryan Danielson and Claudio probably win it, never say never. FTR against the Iron Savages for the AEW tag titles. Too predictable of a match. Scorpio Sky versus Andrade El Idolo. Unless Andrade gets his ass kicked by somebody else, predictable match. The Hardys against the Righteous. Man, I wish they would do more with the Righteous. You kind of feel where that's going. Evil Uno versus Anthony Bowens. Come on. Kris Statlander versus Britt Baker for the TBS Championship. Kind of predictable there. Dave Brown, familiar voice in Memphis wrestling, will be doing some guest commentary. It's not a bad card. If you're home tonight, Saturday night, watch a little Collision. Hey, you got to give me a little credit, my friends. Who is the one that said before week 1 of Collision that it was going to be Saturday Night Dynamite or Rampage 2.0? And look what it turned out to be. Sucks that it ended up the way it is, but it seems like, this is pretty much, it feels like a 2-hour stronger version of Rampage. That's what it kind of feels like. Because Rampage is not heavy on storylines. It kind of feels like a stronger 2-hour version of Rampage. But, all right. I think we could start wrapping this up. Almost 2.5 hours. A lot longer than I expected. But, hey, I was gone for 3 weeks on Saturday. Unfortunately, the last episode we were paying tribute to Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. And yes, we will talk Monday. I think JoJo had broken a silence. I heard Kelly gave birth to twins. We have a couple other news tidbits. And before I plug Sunday, I think we'll save this for Monday. Here's another match that I truly believe could likely happen at WrestleMania. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. I am heavily feeling that match going down. We'll talk about that on Monday, obviously. We're running out of time here. But if you are around Sunday night, why does that say August 13th? Wrong one, DT. Snap out of it. Where's I don't know what I did. Anyway, sit down. I'll be here tomorrow night, 8:05 p.m. See, now I'm mad. See, I don't like being incomplete on these shows. Let me see. Did I download the preview? I think I did. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I think I didn't. All right, whatever. Sunday night, 8:05 p.m., I'll be here for the sit down. And if you want to be part of the show, be part of the discussion, all you got to do is show up live. It is free for everyone. And whatever you want to talk about is what we get into. It's the laziest show that I do, but a lot of people say sometimes it's the most unpredictable, fun show that we do. Because I show up literally, I have no idea what people want to talk about. Sometimes we get into the discussions about topics they haven't thought about in 20 years. We talk about stuff from today, yesterday, wrestling, whatever. But tomorrow night, 8:05 p.m. Eastern, I'll be right here for the sit down. There'll be a preview on my YouTube channel, because that's where it'll stream live. And as always, keep supporting the website, DonTony.com. Download the audio shows. That is the lifeline of what I do. I follow Jim Cornette shows, and I just listened to a segment that he did a couple of days ago, why he doesn't do video. And honestly, the audio side of things, just like his shows, just me on a much smaller scale, that is the lifeline of what I do. Without that, this doesn't exist anymore. So downloading those shows not only helps support the shows, but it keeps, the shows relevant, in the stats department. when people look and see, like what podcast should I tune into, and they go to Chartable or they go to iTunes or Spotify and they want to see like what shows are out there. If the numbers are so split between audio and video, my shows don't pop up. So, if you take a moment and download the audio shows, that helps as well. I mean, I don't want people to do it to pad numbers. Download it because you enjoy the shows. But that definitely is the lifeline of what I do. Like I said, if anything ever has to, change, to stay in business, the video would have to be the first thing to go. And I love doing video. If I didn't do video, you wouldn't have been able to see anything you saw on the screen today. But I do appreciate all your support. I'm going to jet out of here. You'll have a good weekend if I don't talk to you all again. And yeah, I am out of here. Where is my outro? I downloaded so many clips from this week. If you saw my computer screen right now, you'd be like, holy shit, DT, that's a fucking mess. But we pulled it off. I'm glad to be back in New York. And I'll see you all again soon. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.